Addiction to Purpose with Riches in Recovery welcomes you to our audience. We hope that you enjoyed today's show and will join in the discussion by dropping a review or comment. It would be tremendous if you would like, rate, and share our content, or even subscribe to our channel. Please be aware that not all conversations on this show are suitable for children. Additionally, we may talk about things such as sexual abuse, domestic violence, and drug or alcohol abuse. If you feel that these things may trigger you, please do not tune in. Finally, if you are a heavy daily user of alcohol or drugs and are considering stopping, please consult a medical professional for assistance. Welcome to the conversation. So I realize in the recording of this video that we say many times NLP, but with no explanation as to what exactly that is. The initials stand for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. This is techniques and models that help people understand how language affects their thoughts and actions. Hi, thank you for joining us for another episode of Addiction to Purpose. We're really glad that you're here today. Today our guest I met while I was in a recovery house. And when he would come in, he would teach us he would do meditation therapy with us. And, the thing that I remember most about that is that he could take us deeper into meditation faster than I ever really experienced. And it's just really memorable when you go through that, because you kind of start your meditation out and then all of a sudden you really don't feel or hear anything outside of yourself. You kind of notice that there's this voice out there, but you're really just kind of like deep into this meditation, and it's really an experience. And then he also does karaoke therapy, which is fun. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then there's this whole other side to his business that quite honestly, I can't even scratch the surface on. I don't understand it, but he's going to share with us about hypnotherapy and one other thing that he does. So welcome to the show today, and my name's Rich, and over here we have...
This is Rich V.
And we are the Riches in Recovery, and today we have with us James. So James, if you'll introduce yourself and share your sober date with us.
Oh, sure. My name's James C., and my clean date is February 24th, 1994.
Man, yeah.
I've been honored and blessed from the point that I found 12 steps that I've never had to go back out and get loaded.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I mentioned to you that we have our little grateful wall going behind us. So what is it that you're grateful for today?
In this moment, I was thinking I am healthy. I have a healthy body, and I have an open, loving heart, which is a big deal to me.
Love it.
I'm really grateful for that in this moment.
Right on. We'll put that up later on. Appreciate that.
That's cool. Like that one.
And then we always like to kick things off, not quite with like a meeting chair, but just qualifiers, if you will. How did addiction play a role in your life?
That's a great question. And I could probably talk hours about this, but I'll give you the abbreviated version. Growing up, both my parents were alcoholics, and everybody in my family ended up becoming addicts. And so what I can tell you about growing up is I grew up in a family with a lot of chaos, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling. My father wasn't around much because he was in the Navy, and when he was around, there was very little connection. But both my parents drank, a lot of chaos. So everybody, at that point, that's all I knew was like people who were alcoholics or addicts growing up.
Like a lot of us.
Yeah, and
family disease.
Yeah, and in a home like mine, especially as I got to be older, the police were there quite often. It was one of those homes that everybody in the neighborhood knew that my mom was an alcoholic, and that that you got the look of shame and pity from the neighbors that you're one of those people. What I can tell you is that I got to see a lot of stuff and feel very alone I remember, like, one of the things I really remember about being young is that, people tell me they had these dreams and these hopes, and I remember just wanting to be left alone so that I could feel okay. I didn't feel safe, right? It was the biggest thing that I took from my childhood. And again, my parents did the best they could with what they had. It's not about like I say to a lot of friends, like, because of the 12 steps, I got to let them off the hook. But the reality is the reality, right?
Yeah.
And so, my using career started, I was probably around 9 or so, and it was a Thanksgiving, and my mom drank all the time, and I was never going to be an alcoholic because I was like, I could tell that that's not the route that I wanted to go. But the first time I picked up a drink, Thanksgiving, I drink it down, and my little sister was like, oh, I don't want that, and I drank hers too, like that instantly. And what I can tell you is my addiction, by the time I was 13 years old, I was using every single day. I was selling drugs at school. I was doing all the stuff that we do. Everything everything that happened in my life was about getting loaded. Everything that I did was about staying away from my home and going out and getting loaded so that I could feel better. I didn't know it at the time, but I got loaded because I didn't know how to feel and process all the stuff in my life. And
All your relationships were all around getting loaded. That's how you made friends.
everybody who I knew got loaded. I grew up in Vallejo until I was 13, and then I moved over to Sonoma County. But so, like, everybody I knew was who got loaded, and so my life in addiction was a lot of that stuff, man. I got kicked out of every high school I was in, which was several. Expelled, suspended. I even got shipped up to Placerville for a while because my mom couldn't handle me to an aunt. And I got expelled up there too for my behavior. I got into the system, and so I was locked up in and out of juvenile hall, did a lot of weekends, in and out of Los Gallegos, again and again and again. I violated probation 2 weeks before I turned 18, and I got locked up spent 3 months in juvenile hall. Got to spend my 18th birthday locked up in juvenile hall, having a bunch of little addict kids like me singing happy birthday to me. I wasn't happy about that. And it took me to places of, violence. I became somebody that I never even imagined I could be. Because I'll be honest with you, when I was a kid, I was really sensitive, quiet, I just wanted to be happy, right? And then I became somebody else. When I got loaded, all that voice, like we talk about this a lot, that voice went away. That chatter of, you're not good enough, you'll never be good enough, that all just kind of went away. And all of a sudden I felt like, oh yeah, I can do this life thing. And so, to briefly talk about some of the stuff I dealt with when I was 13, my father, I got a call from the Navy. He was in San Diego at the time, and they said they needed to talk to my mom, and I knew right away that something had happened because the Navy never called, and he had wrecked his motorcycle and died. And I found that out at 13, and at 13, that was the first time I overdosed. Not because I was trying to die. I just didn't know how to deal with those feelings, and so I took as much drugs and alcohol as I could, and I ended up getting my stomach pumped and blacked out. My first blackout, first of many.
All right.
And and that's how things went. And so what I can tell you is, just to get to today, kind of, or like to the beginning of recovery for me at least, is that it came to a point with some of the stuff that happened. I've had some intense car wrecks where people got hurt. One of the biggest things that probably was my path to getting clean was when I was 19 years old. I'd got some inheritance money, and I was driving my Firebird with my girlfriend and my little sister at the time, and I wrecked this car. And during this wreck, my little sister broke her back. My girlfriend at the time broke both her knees and an ankle. And they told me that, and it would have been my second DUI, but I got off on a technicality. And I went to the hospital, and they told me that my little sister was probably never going to walk again. Mm-hmm. And I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of, getting loaded, but that was the first time that I hurt somebody else that I didn't mean to hurt. Like, I was supposed to protect her. She's my little sister.
I'm sorry.
And so I this shame storm came over me, right? And I just dove deeper into my addiction. Luckily, she's got a higher power. She was able to walk again.
Wow.
But she had some consequences. She had to wear a body cast for like 9 months and missed all her high school, had to do all her homeschooling. And as I dove deeper into my addiction towards the end, basically, because of the way that I showed up in the world, I didn't like myself very much. As a matter of fact, my regular dialogue was self-hatred. I was homicidal, suicidal. I used to sleep with a 44 under my pillow and a sawed-off shotgun next to my bed, and I wanted to die every day for a long time. And so right before I got clean, I put this 44 to my head, and I just wanted to pull the trigger. I just wanted to stop feeling so shitty about everything. I had no hope. Like, no hope whatsoever that my life was ever going to get better, that I was ever going to make a difference, that I was ever going to do anything that was good in this world. And I just wanted to stop feeling. And then I didn't do it. Obviously, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And I sent my little sister next door to get my neighbor who was going to some meetings, and they said, come with us. And I went, and my journey started. And I couldn't be more grateful for the fact that I don't ever have to get loaded again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a journey, and it's crazy where our addiction takes us, and where when we get well, we can come out the other side and be human. It's we had a guest on here a little while ago, and he kept referring to like, now I get to do human shit, and I kind of chuckle at that because it's almost how it feels, like we were somehow, I mean, we're not, right? But somehow less than that, we're not really functioning like a person functions when we're in that addiction, but it sometimes takes a lot to pull us to a point to get us willing to truly look at ourselves, and then it takes other people helping us along the way. So finding that program and finding that those steps and working that program and sponsorship and other people, and then being of service, that all makes such a difference in your life.
Yeah, and so earlier we were talking about this like gift of recovery, and that not everybody gets it. So my truth is that, like, when I got clean, both my older sister and my little sister had got clean, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I was going to meetings for a while with both of them, and I can tell you now that I've been here a long time that around 9 years clean, my older sister overdosed and died in jail.
Oh.
And I got to be with her, and I got to hold her hand and say goodbye. And she just, I believe that she just couldn't get honest with some things. And so she kept getting loaded. And then 7 or 8 years ago, my mom died of lung cancer because she wouldn't stop smoking, even though she was a hardcore alcoholic. She would only binge drink. And right after that happened, my little sister couldn't process the trauma, and she'd been getting loading for a while. And now I just got to visit her a couple of weeks ago in jail, and she's schizophrenic now because of the use of meth. And so what I can say is, that I'm here today is a miracle, because everybody in my family is dead except my little sister, and she's not functioning as a member of society, right?
Yeah.
Because of, she chose to get loaded, but she didn't chose to be a schizophrenic, right? And so now she's got this other stuff to deal with. And so, like, the fact that I get to participate in life at the level that I do is humbling and amazing.
Yeah.
The destructive path that addiction leaves is just amazing. Your folks being addicts, alcoholics, and then their destructive path that they left with their kids, and how it mushrooms out so much is just amazing. And you don't get to walk away from it very often.
Yeah.
One out of how many people get to get sober, and stay sober? Very few. And the path just mushrooms out, and it's just brutal what addiction can do. Not just to a family, but also people that are, friends of the family, and blah, 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 blah. And for you to be standing here 30 years sober, I mean, that's 30 years clean, sober, whatever you want to call it, that's amazing. You know, it's amazing. And the amount of knowledge and the depth of feeling in your heart that you've been able to go ahead and obtain from all this other damage that's happened in your life, and being able to fill your heart with that knowledge, but still having God there with you and being able to pass on your knowledge and love to others. It's amazing.
Yeah, you could call it damage, or you could call it opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Miraculous is the right word for it, for sure.
It's just amazing, man. It's fantastic. It's really cool to be able to have all of that, carry all of that, and be able to go ahead and have so much love for others. Doesn't get much better than that, man. Good for you. Good for you.
So, thanks so much for sharing that with us. It's always inspiring to hear somebody's tale and get some of that recovery.
I mean, I have lots of stories, but I don't want to go down that.
Obviously, lots of stories. Yeah. We would be here. How long's the show going to be for? Everyone get a pillow.
Right? Yeah, we'd have to split it into a bunch of different episodes, cover the rest of the year with James.
James, you're rocking it, man.
But yeah, I do want to cover some other stuff with you. And the first thing, I mean, I've got to be quite honest with you. Outside of like the swirly screen that you see on like maybe the Twilight Zone and somebody clucking like a chicken at the fair, I really don't understand hypnotism very well. But you know, you work in hypnotherapy, and I would really love to get the lowdown from you. You know, what are you doing there? What's the practice about?
If that's what you want to feel like talking about, if something else is really getting at you that you'd rather discuss, then go for that.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit, for sure. So hypnotherapy. So I'm a hypnotherapist and an NLP coach, and working together with those is really how you get the benefits, right? And so you've experienced some things and heard some things, right? And so there's a difference between, you know, the guy who does hypnosis on stage and medical hypnosis, right? The thing about medical hypnosis is you have to be able to measure a change. If you can't measure it, it's pointless in doing it, right? So like you can measure, was I able to change the behavior where I ate less Big Macs, or I ate healthier food, or I drank more water? It's got to be measurable, right? So like, you can do calorie intake. You can measure that, right? So if you do hypnotherapy around that, right, you have to be able to measure it to know that it's working, right? So you could, you know, somebody who's going up on stage and doing that, that's something where when the hypnosis who does stage hypnosis, they pick people that they think are going to be susceptible. They do a few tests to see how suggestible they are, right?
Okay.
So here's the thing about it. You cannot be hypnotized unless you want to be hypnotized. Mm-hmm. And one of the big things about it, people always think, well, you know, if you're too smart, you can't be hypnotized, which is actually quite the opposite, because the smarter you are, the more likely you can be hypnotized, because you're smart enough to pay attention and follow directions, right? Somebody who has, the people who can't be hypnotized have usually a really low IQ, like somebody who's at that level, right? Or they're one of the people that are, you know, they just don't want to be hypnotized, right? And that's typically what happens, right? It's like, I'm just not going to do it no matter what. But if you're willing to be hypnotized with a coach, with a hypnotherapist, you can start to work on these things. But it's like having a coach, right? You're like the star athlete, and I'm the coach. If you're not willing to follow the suggestions and start to imagine things and try to be in the process, you're not going to be hypnotized, right? Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, we're all hypnotized all the time. So listen to this. Okay, so
I believe you.
Think about this. Think about watching your favorite TV show or your favorite movie.
Oh, yeah.
So when you really drop in, if it's a movie you don't like, you're not into it, you don't want to watch it, nothing's going to happen. But if you're watching this movie, and you're watching this movie, and it's like something really emotional happens, you start to cry. Do you not?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Is that person on there?
Big tear guy, yeah.
Right. Is that person on that movie? You know consciously they're not actually being hurt. It's a movie. But you have dropped into imagining that you're in that space, and for that moment, you were hypnotized by the TV, right?
Oh man, all I got to do is hear the music for Up.
Uh-huh.
The movie Up. And man, like I can almost feel the waterworks coming on.
And,
Like,
and that music is what we would call a trigger or an
okay.
anchor, right? And so
Shawshank Redemption.
there you go.
Get busy living or get busy dying. Yeah, way to go, man. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So what happens is if you use your imagination to follow your coach in going into this place, you're able to get into the subconscious and start to place suggestions that you want there, right? Like if it's I want to quit smoking, or I want to, I want to do things that make me feel healthier, like drink more water, or I want to exercise more, whatever it is you work on with your coach ahead of time, right? And so once you get to that place of being relaxed, into that place where you're susceptible to suggestion, then with a coach you can start to plant those things in. And it takes repetition. It doesn't happen, you don't walk into somebody's office, they sit down, they hypnotize you once, and then all of a sudden you walk out a millionaire next week, right? Like it takes time to get in there. Our subconscious takes a little bit of effort. So that's really what it is we're letting you get to a relaxed state, just like meditation. So you've been to the classes I've taught in meditation.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so when you meditate, it's the same brainwave frequency, right? So you get to a place of being really relaxed. You're in this meditative state. The difference between hypnotherapy and meditation is the goal for meditation is just to learn to drop into that frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Just so, and like for me, if I just close my eyes and I take a deep breath, my brain frequency is already dropped in, right? Because I've been meditating a long time. And so as you do hypnotherapy, you do the same thing. You just rehearse dropping into that space. And the difference between meditating and hypnotherapy is we're working on a goal, right? We're doing it for a purpose. We want to help you change what you want to change, right? I want to be more confident in front of people. I want to, whatever your goal is, right? So we specifically work on things that can be measured once you're in that space. Meditation is practicing being in that space so that you can be, for me at least, why I loved it when I started meditating was being less triggered, right? Because I was always on edge when I got clean. Without the drugs and early recovery, I was always on edge. I was always had anxiety, and everything was uncomfortable. I used to smoke 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day when I got clean, and I quit smoking in early recovery, and I didn't know what to do with my hands. And somebody said, try meditation. And they said, listen to this CD. That's how long ago it was. And the CD of waves. And they said, just practice breathing in everything that you think some universal power would want to give you. And then breathe out, let whatever that is take care of it for you. And within like 5 minutes, I felt better. And I fell in love with meditation. And so because I've worked with hypnotherapists and NLP coaches and stuff like that, I started getting really interested. I said, hey, I could do this. I like this. And so, like, I've started doing NLP, hypnosis. I've been teaching meditation classes for years, and I love being somebody in recovery. I consider myself to be what's called a seeker. One of my old friends taught me that, like, just keep checking things out until you find out what really what lights you up, what gives you that passion, what gives you that fire, what makes you feel like, man, this is what I'm supposed to do. And
what gives you a buzz now?
Yeah, I've tried a lot of things, right? I'm sure you guys have too.
Yeah.
And what happened with a lot of them is like, yeah, maybe not.
Right.
But then when I did find those things like meditation, I would drop into those things and I would really give it that.
I flipping love to meditate. Absolutely love to meditate. I could do it a couple times a day, and it's my favorite time of the day. It's when I could just drop into meditation and just dig it. It feels so good because, it really helps with pain.
Mm-hmm.
When you can go ahead and meditate and just mellow out the pain and just, it's my favorite parts of the day. Yeah. Just do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've done a lot of meditation classes, and guys would meditate with me and they'd be like, oh, my headache's gone. I've heard that all the time.
Yeah.
And, I will stress that I'm a coach, right? So I'm not a therapist. I don't diagnose or treat anybody. What I do is I work with people to help them change things in their life that they want to change, finding the skill sets that they have, and help them work on changing the things that they want to change. I'm not a therapist, I'm a coach. I help guide people.
So I think one question that just like came to mind while you were talking is you kind of hear in some meditation circles about manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
some of what you said almost kind of seems like it would have some similarity in the way that you're like planting a seed or a thought that you're going to practice. Is there a similarity? I mean, what's your response there?
I would say yes, because, okay, so with hypnotherapy, one of the things we do is we rehearse something, right? So they did the study. And one of the studies they did was they took a bunch of people and they had them take a piano piece, right? And the first group, they practiced the piano piece every day. Boom, 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 boom. They just kept practicing it. The second group imagined doing it flawlessly. They had never touched a piano. They imagined in their mind doing it flawlessly. The third group did nothing at all, right? And so when they did the study at the end, the people who didn't do anything at all, they went to play the piano, no change, right? The people who actually practiced did better than anybody else. But surprisingly, right behind them, the people who imagined doing it perfectly 10 times a day or whatever it is they did almost as good as the people who practice it every day without ever actually touching the piano.
Interesting.
So when you talk about manifesting,
okay,
by us rehearsing that in our brain, and when we do it in a state of hypnosis, right, you can actually start to change the way that you see yourself showing up. Now, I'm not going to get into all the different, like, I can change the cosmos. That's for another topic.
Right.
But I do believe that if we start to change our inner dialogue and the way that we see the world, and we believe in our subconscious that we can do something, we absolutely can.
Okay.
We can shift that quickly. And in a little while, I'll do a process with you guys, an NLP process, and show you guys something really cool when you're ready.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. So are there like specific things that you treat in your practice? We obviously talk about substance abuse on this show,
Mm-hmm.
but are there specific things that you lean into?
Yeah, I want to stack onto that a little bit. Have you been able to help an alcoholic, let's say, with hypnosis? Because an alcoholic seems like that's a pretty tough nut to crack. Has hypnosis helped with someone who's an alcoholic obtain sobriety, or is that too difficult to ask for hypnosis?
Well, that's not. I don't think it's too difficult. I think some people go down that route and they help. But here's the deal: to do the kind of work that hypnosis and NLP offers, I really suggest you get clean first, right?
Yeah.
That's not your primary purpose, because
you really couldn't.
there's a lot of avenues out there to help people get clean, right?
Yeah.
12 steps. There's recovery places, and there's a lot of getting clean is the step to it, right? Like, there are people that say they do that, but that's not what I'm not looking to help people get clean. I want to help people, once they get clean, really start to change the way that they show up, because I think that's just the blank slate, right? Because like, we have this gift of life once we get clean.
Yeah.
And then once you figure out that you can be clean and live your life, let's figure out what you want to go after. What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want to see happen? Do you want to have a healthy relationship? Do you want to show up, with your kids better? You can do that in a lot of avenues, but like, a lot of people that do hypnotherapy and stuff like that is about, I want to quit smoking, or, and that takes a lot of repetition. I want to lose weight. I want to have stress relief. Those are the most common things that people just get into hypnosis for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you do the NLP to change your thinking around things. So I think this would be a good opportunity to try this. So in NLP, we have, we talk about, we all process information, right? And so some people, we all process the same information, but some people are more visual, right? You actually, if you slow down, you'll see that you see pictures of things, right? And we'll get into that. We smell things. We hear things. We feel things kinesthetically, right? And so we use those in NLP to help you change the way you see things. So how about I do this, and I want you to follow along too.
Okay,
so,
yeah, I got
so
you.
this is called a submo swap, submodalities. All those things I talked about, sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, those are all modalities. And a submodality of that would be, how smooth did it feel? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, so what I want you to do, and this is not for major trauma, although NLP has a lot of trauma processes, but what I want you to do is think about something that irritates you. Not like, childhood trauma, but like, let's say you don't like, people who cut you off in traffic. Whatever it is for you.
Okay.
Think about something that really kind of gets you going a little bit, but it's not something that's going to push you over the edge. And you can think of something too.
Okay.
And if you're watching on the camera, you can do this too.
Okay.
Okay, you got something?
Yep.
Okay, so tell me, you're not going to tell me anything about it, but what I want you to do is notice, do you see a picture of it?
Yes.
Okay, now is that picture you see, about where would you locate it if you were to point to it?
Here.
So right here,
Yep.
top of your brain. Okay. Is that picture in color? Or is it black and white?
More black and white.
Okay. Is it like very detailed or is it kind of blurry?
More blurry.
Okay, so it's blurry, it's black and white. As you really focus on that thing that irritates you, if you were to give it a number from 1 to 10, 10 being really frustrating, 0 being not at all, what kind of number would you give that? And really focus on it.
6.
6. Okay, so it's definitely, if you give it your attention, it will definitely irritate you.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Did you find something?
Yeah, it's a 9.
Okay, good. And it's not a trauma, right?
No, it's not a trauma. Mine's in color.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take
it's right here.
that picture. You guys both have them about the same spot. So I want you to you take that picture and you push that picture out 100 feet out that way. Push it out as far as you can. You do the same thing out that way.
Yep.
Okay, just notice it as it's out there farther. Now push it 200 feet away from you. If it was color for you, turn it to black and white. Now go ahead and push it 300 feet away, to where it's almost so small it's like a dot. Now, make sure it's as small as a dust of sand, a grain of sand. As you see it out there, and you see you're focusing on it, and you notice it's way out there. How does that feel to you right now? Does it feel different?
Definitely.
Now imagine that the wind picks up and it blows that little speck of dust away. Now come back and give me your attention here. Tell me, what's the second to last number of your phone number?
8.
8.
Okay. Well, you
That's
guys,
funny.
Yeah.
that's what we call a break state, because you were just focusing on something and we want to bring you back to being here to let that go.
Okay.
Okay, so we're coming back to the present. They call it break state. You can do it with really intense trauma, but it just helps you to get out of that state you're in before.
Right.
Bring you back grounded to here. Okay.
Okay.
So now I want you to think about that same situation, bring it up wherever you do, and just tell me, if you were to give it a rating 1 to 10, what would it be?
7.
7.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad, and no, I'm not quite as irritated about it.
Oh, like a 2.
Like a 2.
Like it drops for me really quickly.
Right, and there's some other things about that. So, but let me ask you this. So it was a 9,
Yeah.
and now it's a 7. It was a 6, and now it's a 2. Which is true?
The 2.
And why is that?
Because it's a mild irritant that I blow out of proportion.
What do you think?
It's out of my hands, and there's nothing I could do about it. It's just something
Oh, I see. You're holding on to it a little more. Okay, got it.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just something I've had to deal with for a long time.
The way that you feel about it changed in 4 minutes.
Yeah, and I know if I worked at it, I could be able to get it to less. It's just right now, it doesn't just affect me, but it affects others.
So if I had you as a client, we would spend a little more time on that, and we would do some other things that help you change in your brain.
Okay.
But all you did is the submo swap. All you did was you took that same image, you looked at it, focused on it, and you changed it the way that your brain accesses. And so one of the things about NLP we study is our eyes. So our eyes are actually part of our brain. And so we know if you're looking up, you're seeing images. We also know that if you're looking down, you're accessing emotions. And usually when somebody's eyes go sideways, they're hearing things or processing if they go really fast, right?
Okay.
And there's a lot of studies that say that, if you look one way, you're making something up, and if you look the other way, you're remembering something. But the truth is it's like left-handed and right-handed. We're all a little different. So so the point about doing a submo swap is you can change the way that you think about something, because that's what's important. Because the truth is when I ask you which one of those is real, and the answer is both of them, because it really depends on where you're at.
Sure.
If you're focusing on that and it makes you feel tense, it's real for you.
Yeah.
And if you were able just to change the way you think about it in those few moments with just that little exercise, what else could you change your thinking around? Really, think about it. What else could you change your thinking around? If you could change your thinking around that, like that, what else in your life do you think could shift if you gave it a little effort?
Sure.
And you had the right guidance.
No, it's good. That's really good practice. No, I love that.
Yeah, and there's a lot more techniques that we do.
A little speck of dust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boom, there goes your worry. There goes your irritants.
And so here's what I believe. I believe that our subconscious knows what to do with that. So by tomorrow, you might notice that it's a 0 because your subconscious is like, oh, I already know that I need to work on that and let it go. And it's already working on it. So my assignment for you guys is tomorrow, pull it up again and see if it's different.
Okay.
Right? See if it's gotten down even lower, or see if it's gotten to a 0, and text me, let me know, hey, or whatever your experience is, just let me know what it is, because that's how we measure things. If you, one of the things we talk about with hypnotherapy is something we can measure. We can also measure your anxiety level. How stressed do you feel in the situation? You know when you're a 10 stressed, and you know when you're 2 stressed. You could go, well, I was still stressed, but I wasn't as stressed as I was. I could talk more clearly, right? So we can measure those things by doing some work. So I hope that was useful, but that's just the tip of the iceberg with NLP.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the sake of honesty, because I think it's interesting, what I use is something that I find, and for me, it is something that I find mildly annoying, because I'm kind of obsessive, but my wife has a tendency to make me late, right? Mm-hmm. And it bugs me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I initially pictured. And
oh, good. I thought it was me being late.
No. But it is. Yeah, that's a subliminal message to you, man. By the way, no. But she has a tendency to make me late, and it does annoy me. It is something that I already kind of work on. Okay, what's the point of getting pissed about this? It's something I already kind of try to work on. But it is something that I still when it happens, I feel the anxiety come up for me. But for me, when I pictured it and I had a good grasp on it, partially for the sake of the show, I didn't want to pick something that was going to really get to me.
Right, that's what we don't want to pick a drum.
Right, I don't want to sit here and be for the rest of the show. But so I picked that. But even initially, when you had me slide it 100 feet out, I felt my anxiety that I had around it slide already. Right, and then the further that you had me push it out, I was really that doesn't matter.
Yeah, all you did was take a picture in your brain and change it.
So yeah,
so you weren't even probably aware you were making a picture of it before.
No, But yeah, I found that interesting. But I just figured I would just share the whole process for me, since it wasn't anything that really involved anybody that would get mad. I mean, my wife will see it and laugh about it. But.
And you notice with that certain circumstance, you didn't even have to share with me what it was if you didn't want to.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Right.
So
certainly. Yeah.
It was really about your inner stuff. So you can, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I just kind of did it for the sake of experiment and for for our audience. I thought that was really interesting.
And you'll notice next time your wife is late, because if she's late on a regular basis, she probably will be.
Yeah.
Maybe just notice your reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Internally.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, that was super interesting.
Now, the amount of work this guy's done, actually, he and his wife, since he's been sober, is just beautiful. Their relationship is just ridiculously cool since he's gotten sober. It's just awesome. I had to throw that in there. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's an accomplishment right there.
Yeah.
It's cool.
We're doing great.
Yeah,
She's pretty awesome in her own right.
she is.
So, well, I mean, I guess we've covered a lot of stuff that I had kind of set up to talk about. But one of my questions was about susceptibility, and you kind of answered, like, if you don't want it, you're not going to be susceptible to it.
Right. And one of the things that's important about that, if
Yeah.
you have a moral belief system that lying is not okay, nobody can make you lie. You'll just simply reject it because it goes against your belief systems, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't, get you relaxed and then tell you to give me your bank account number because unless you want to give your money away,
Right.
and then maybe it'll work. But you know what I mean? You can't go against your own belief systems, right? So I couldn't make you do that. Those people that get up on stage and like cluck like chickens, there is a part of them that want to let that part of themselves out because
Right.
if they weren't, they wouldn't do it.
Sure.
So so the smarter you are, the more chance you're going to be hypnotized because you have the ability to focus on what you're hearing from the hypnotist's voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the more that you participate and want to do your part, to imagine, to play, to be in the moment, to really feel the feeling and incorporate what they're telling you, the better success you have. And it's just like meditation. It takes practice to get to that place.
I was on a cruise, and fiance at the time talked her into going up there with the hypnotist, and yeah, they had just had her doing all sorts of stuff. It was pretty entertaining, pretty darn entertaining, yeah.
And she's probably inside of her, she wanted to do it.
Yeah, really super smart gal. She's very smart. Told me people have tried to hypnotize me before. It's not gonna work. The guy got her just like that. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Cool.
We kind of spoke a little bit about the difference between meditation and hypnosis. Meditation is calming yourself down, accessing the brainwave, getting into that point, and then hypnosis is adding in
the goal, the purpose,
the
work,
the training,
yeah.
right? So, and that makes sense. Repeated sessions. It's like training, right? The more you train it, so the more you train it, the better that muscle is going to get.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me what it is, but think about stuff from your childhood, and what's the first thing that comes up? Did it have an emotional charge to it, negative or positive?
Positive.
Positive.
Okay, and it doesn't matter if it was positive or negative, but it wasn't meh, right?
Right.
So one of the things, that's why when I work with a lot of the meditations, even some of the one I created called Joy, it's meant to invoke an emotion in you, because once you evoke an emotion, your memory is stored differently. That's why you remember all the traumatic stuff, and that's why you remember all the great stuff, and the stuff in between you don't remember a lot of, because your brain puts it into a different file and says, oh, this is emotionally charged, I'll remember that, right? And so it's kind of like, getting yourself to a place where you feel really good, really into that zone, and then your brain will just store it differently, so it's easier to access too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I can go off and left it up.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I love geeky crap like that. We could probably talk about it for hours. I was going to mention I did a little bit of training in my previous non-sober life as a sommelier, and we would have to learn to smell and identify smells, and somebody told me that the easiest way to do it is to attach it to something from your childhood, right? So like grandma's apple pie.
Mm-hmm.
But what you just said kind of clicked with me, because obviously that's attached to emotion, right? That's attached to loving grandma's house, feeling good at grandma's house, right? So that's why that smell is so accessible in memory.
Smell is one of the most powerful. That's one of the most powerful anchors for memory. You can smell one thing and be right back into a place.
Yeah.
It's very powerful for a lot of us. Yeah.
It was funny. My thing that I thought of though is in my backyard when we lived in Maryland for a while. I'm like 7, 8 years old. My dad throwing me. I'm going out for pass patterns. My dad throwing me the football. But yeah, I remember all that. But I remember the smell of the grass, and the smell of the football when I caught it and all that stuff too. The smell came back to me just as much as the picture of it came back to me. Yeah.
I always say that's why there's no place like home. It's because when you get there, you're like, it's all my stuff, it's all my smell, it's all, you
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
Like your brain's like, okay, I'm safe,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because you're home.
Yeah, when I meditate, the place I go to is Lanai in Hawaii, and the smells, just that's why I go there, because the
Yeah.
smells are so beautiful, and that I love that place.
So I spent a lot of time with you or I spent some time with you in the meditation practice, and you use a lot of sound in your meditation, and it's not like waves, you know, or it might be, but
And one of them it is.
you use other elements of just tones, if I'm not incorrect. So describe to me what role those play.
So, meditation can be very layered, right? And you remember how I talked about the modalities? We all process information differently. And I try to use as many layers as I can when I teach meditation. Because like I said, when I got into recovery, I found out that I love meditation. So I started taking classes. I did a bunch of places, Berkeley Psychic Institute. I've had trainers that were private classes. I did all this stuff. And I've kind of incorporated all the stuff that I've learned. And because I don't believe that we all are going to fall in love with the same meditation, right? You might love the meditation I teach, number one, that's about so-and-so, and you might hate it, right? And so I teach these different ones with different sounds, different things to help people connect, because I work with big groups of people. I want to be able to cast a wide net, so to say, right? And so sounds are important because not only in some of the places I teach, there's a lot of background noise, so it helps drown those out. But one of the things I've been using for decades is binaural beats and isochronic tones. And I probably talked to you about what those are before.
Yeah.
And so I've found that by using different sounds, it can help relax your nervous system by making it relax. Sometimes people love the sound of waves, and other people are like, no, that made me uncomfortable, right?
Love it.
And so like I teach a bunch of different meditations, and I use a different soundtrack in every one because it just kind of ties it together, man. I'm also a DJ, so I love music.
Yeah.
Right. So like, but when I found binaural beats, I use a company that I've been using forever that I actually record my own affirmations in my own voice, right? And they take that and they put it on a binaural beat track for me, and it plays subliminally in my deeper levels of binaural beats that I listen with my headphones. And so every time I listen to my meditations that are custom made for me, behind there is my voice telling me the affirmations that I want to hear. So it's even going deeper into my subconscious for me.
That's really cool.
I use that to who am I going to trust if it's not me, right?
No doubt.
That's really cool.
So yeah, the sound just adds another layer. I mean, some of the things I teach, to do a journey with the drum, where people come in and I'll teach them because I have vast experience. I've been doing Native American ceremony for a long time and other sweat lodges. And so I do a journey with the drum where people can actually go on a journey to find what we call a spirit guide or a power animal. I use isochronic tones, which are like binaural beats, except you can do them with a speaker. I do one I created called Joy, where I take people on a journey where they get to go and experience some things that would just make them feel wonderful, right? And I do affirmations and mantras, and I try to teach people a little bit about what meditation is. One of the things that's important, not only with the sound, is that people get, they start to meditate, whether they're what people would call normies or people in recovery, and they start to think and they get irritated at themselves. And then the negative self-talk happens, right? Oh, I'm not doing it right. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'll never be good at this. And we all have something similar like that if we give into it. But when we pick something simple as a sound to focus on, right? So use this sound. You just listen to this sound. What happens is if you learn to be loving with yourself, as your brain drifts out and starts to think about whatever it is. I'm a tasker, so I think about all I have to do, right? And so as soon as I notice that I'm thinking, whatever the thoughts are, instead of getting irritated at myself like I would have done when I started meditation, I just simply go, well, it's a win. I noticed. Everybody thinks it's okay. And then I come back to focusing on that sound, and I use that as what they call a home base nowadays. They used to call it a focal point when I started meditating, but the common terminology now is home base. So whether you use sound for home base, or whether you use a feeling of kinesthetic touching something, whether you notice, get real quiet and feel your own breath or heartbeat, whether you meditate on a smell, like if you're outside, you can smell the pine or a lemon or whatever. You can have your eyes open and focus on a candle, right? Whatever it is you use that home base, and I use sound a lot because I like the layers. You just simply train your brain to come back to it. For those people who go to the gym and work out like I like to, it's the same thing. Every time that your brain drifts and you come back to focusing on that home base, it's just a rep, right? The more reps you do, the better you get at focusing. Or hopefully if you're at the gym, the stronger you get, right? So that it's the same concept, but I like to add in all the layers. I want the most chance for success.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that explain it enough?
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. No,
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
great practices. Thank you. I got so much to think about now that when I meditate. Great. Thanks a lot. No.
You're missing the point.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, right.
I'm totally
Nothing.
kidding you.
That's funny.
You can do a pre-thought meditation, so you can really think about what you're going to do when you meditate, and then be quiet.
And I got it down. I get in my meditation mode real quick.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I've got it down.
It's essential, I think, for long-term recovery to learn to quiet the chatter.
Cool. So James, anything else you want to say on meditation?
Yeah, I guess I would say that if you're learning meditation, be really easy with yourself. And this is the way I always look at it, is that when I first got into recovery, having my feelings and my thought processes were like having a needle in a record. If for you people remember a groove in a record, like you people remember
Vinyl's
records.
back.
Yeah, so like it's like being stuck in a groove on a record, right? I was stuck in rage and anger and fear and resentment, and then through all the different stuff that I've learned in recovery, whether it's 12 steps or whether it's meditating, like by practicing these things on a regular basis, I've learned to change that groove to peace, happiness, calmness. More often than not, right? I didn't become an angel. But if you practice and you're easy with yourself, if you just give yourself 10 to 15 minutes a day, every day, in the beginning of the day when you first wake up is the most powerful time. At the end of the evening is also another powerful time, or right after lunch. If you could do that 10 to 15 minutes a day, you will start to see changes over time. And if you do more, it'll get better. I have a mentor, a guy that I get to talk to a couple times a year named Azim, and he meditates 2 hours a day every day. He's a Sufi Muslim. But he says that if you meditated 10 minutes in the morning and then you add 10 minutes at night, it'll quadruple your benefits. So just being easy with yourself about it, being gentle with yourself. Don't look at it like pass or fail. Just look at it as you're growing. Nobody ever got good at anything without stepping into practice and being uncomfortable. So just be easy with yourself. That's the best advice I can give anybody.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's one of my big things, is that it's a meditation practice, not a meditation perfect.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
And
I like that.
Yeah.
And the thing with meditation for me too, it really helps me open up myself to be receiving and to giving love. I really want to live not in a land of fear, but in a land of love. And when I meditate and I get myself open to it, I can open myself to love that much easier. And so meditation just gets me right there, ready to do it. And takes away all the other garbage that's in my way. Gets me open to feeling, living in love. And so it really helps in that area too.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep. So one other thing that you did when I was in a recovery house was, and I think a question that a lot of people ask themselves when they go to get clean or sober is, how am I going to have fun anymore?
Yeah.
Right? That's a big one. I'm never going to have fun again. But one of the things that you did is you brought karaoke into the house.
So cool.
And everybody's nervous and they don't know what they're doing at first, but then after a minute, everybody is up and having some fun. So I'd love to have you talk a little bit about that and how you saw it kind of change people a little bit.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So I have a lot of passion about that because when I got into recovery, I was really young. I was 3 months before I turned 21, and I looked around and I said, "These people are old." I mean, they were like 30 years old. I was like, "What am I going to do with these old people?"
These old farts.
And I wanted to have fun. And eventually, my path led me to kind of funny. It started with me being in a play with my daughter where I started doing karaoke. And it was like about me facing fears. And this story is a little important to me because this is how like my whole path got started with this. My daughter was in a play. And I showed up because they said, my wife at the time said, your daughter needs you there. So I showed up to this rehearsal thing. And they were like, we need some adults to be in the play. And me and one other father, I was volunteered. And I was like, at that point in my life, I've never sang in front of anybody. The only dancing I ever did was going dancing in recovery events, and so like here I am with all these really talented kids that are like they know how to sing, they know how to dance, and I got asked to be the main part in this Babes in Toyland.
Pardon me, how old was your daughter?
She was about 16 at the time.
Okay, thanks.
16, around there, yeah. She was a teenager, and so I got into this play. Because my daughter wanted me to, and it was the hardest thing I ever did because there was this lady who was the director who was the scariest, loudest, meanest person I ever met. She intimidated the crap out of me, and I was very insecure. But I did it because I love my daughter, right? Yeah. So I stepped into this place of being uncomfortable because I cared about my daughter more than I cared about my own comfortableness, right? And that went great, but what it did is it taught me, and the best thing about that was the way that my daughter looked at me. That was powerful.
Sure.
That was one of the best things in my recovery, right?
So great.
But what happened is I'm like, well, if I can do that, maybe I can sing karaoke. And I started singing karaoke. And that progressed to me having a cab company where I had cabs in Petaluma where we had karaoke and disco balls and laser lights and subwoofers. And I did that for a few years running that company. And it was fun, but being a person in recovery, it got old. And then I started my DJ business and karaoke, and I started working in, one of my friends worked at one of the recovery places, and we started talking. I'm like, I would love to do this with clients. And I started at the same time working in recovery and at senior facilities with people doing what I call therapeutic karaoke. And there's actually on my DJ website, there's a section on there that talks about that and all the benefits of singing together. Like, back in the day, like a tribe, they would sing together, whether it was prayer, whether, when there's all these studies that show when people sing together, they bond together and they start to like each other more. And so I started really researching this after I started doing it. And what I realized is that for me, it started out as, look, I know that everything in my life is a challenge when I first do it. It's always, if I make my mind up around it, that it's going to be difficult. It's going to be scary and difficult. But I learned that you can drop into that and then eventually push through it because I was uncomfortable when I started doing it too. And so I teach these people, I create this space in the rehab with people in recovery. And I tell them, look, you don't have to do anything. I don't force them to do anything. You can't force us to do anything. Right? It would never work. But what I do is I create a space where they're okay to, just sing and have fun and not make it about being a good singer. And then once they start getting comfortable and I kind of talk about recovery and every opportunity in life starts with feeling uncomfortable if it's new to you. And then eventually, if you do it enough times, you get comfortable. And what happens is and I've done this with thousands and thousands of people, hundreds and hundreds of times, and I tell you that I've seen people in a group of people where they're just like, there's no way I'm singing karaoke. I just got sober, clean, and and then the next thing you know, the end of the night, I gotta go, and they won't give me my mic back. Right? And one time I even seen this. One of the most amazing things I've seen doing therapeutic karaoke, and I do group songs with people to help them open up. I'll get them up and they'll all be singing groups. I've done group songs with hundreds of people in certain events, and there's just power in it. There's power in it.
Oh yeah.
And one of the most powerful things that I saw in a recovery setting was, there was this young lady and she was literally detoxing from heroin. She was not even 2 days clean. Her hands were shaking.
Not happy.
And she came up and she says, I want to do this. And she sang a song and she was crying the whole time, and she did it, and I was blown away at her courage. Right? She did this. She's detoxing, but she knew she wanted to, and step into something different. I don't know that I would have ever been that brave at that point in my recovery.
No doubt.
But
Right?
she did it, and she gave me hope. Right? She gave
Yeah.
me inspiration. And I'll share one more thing if I can.
I'd be all misty-eyed watching that.
I used to work with a lot of senior facilities and a lot of brain care units. And so
Yeah.
the thing that's interesting about singing is that you may not even be a person that can still talk or have a cognitive conversation with somebody. There's this one woman that I used to work with that never would talk. She was in a wheelchair, and she would smile at you. That was all you'd get. And I'd play a certain song, and it happens to be Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And this woman never talked, and she would sing it perfectly. She'd get on the mic and sing it because it's a different part of your brain that accesses it.
Yeah.
And she happened to have been, and it happens a lot where they can't remember certain things. They can't remember your name that that you've known for 5 years, but a song from their childhood they can sing without even looking at the words.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? And so because it accesses a different part of our brain, right? This particular woman in the senior facility, she used to be a Broadway singer. Right. And so even though she couldn't talk, man, and like seeing her smile when she sang that song was like, wow. Like, so I've seen some pretty powerful stuff with it. So it all started because I stepped into something that was like uncomfortable for me because I was trying to be a good father.
Yeah.
But it all progressed into me now owning a DJ business and being on a mic and talking in front of people all the time. And by the way, I was petrified to talk in front of 2 or 3 people when I got into recovery because I just didn't feel good about who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I felt shame about everything, and eventually I just practiced talking in front of bigger and bigger groups of people, and it became easier.
Yeah.
And this was like anything in life. If you practice, you'll get better. You might not be perfect, but you'll get better.
Yeah.
I think with anything, once we get into recovery, if we just follow just doing the next right thing, just listening to our higher power and just doing the next right thing, whatever your heart's telling you, what's the next right thing? Just doing that. You obviously, what was the next right thing? Well, doing this musical or play with my daughter, well, that's the next right thing. That's going to help my recovery. That's going to help my relationship with my daughter. And that's going to make me I feel so much more love in my heart. And that's what we're all striving for, in recovery. And to me in life, well, that's the next right thing. And then what's the next right thing? Well, let's go ahead and try this. That feels good to my heart. Let's see, this feels going to have some more love in it. That's the next right thing. And you do the next right thing, and next thing you're helping others and making them happy. Well, obviously that was the next right thing. What else can I do? What's the next right thing on top of that? And you did that, following your heart and the messages you were getting, from your higher power or whatever you want to call it. Before you know it, you're doing something great for a lot of people. And in turn, your life is just amazing because you're helping all these people. And that's just so cool. It's just a great way to be living your life. Really cool. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Glad to share.
And now I think about it, my daughter was actually a little younger. I think she was closer to 14. But it's hard to remember everything.
But it's that age where they know more than you do. Of course, they roll their eyes. And, oh, come on! Oh
my kid was pretty. Yeah, she had some moments at 13.
Yeah.
So the name of the show is Addiction to Recovery or
Addiction to Purpose.
Addiction to Purpose.
And so I was looking at that earlier, Addiction to Purpose, and as I was thinking about that, so one of the things I've also done is I've done a lot of personal development seminars and stuff like that, and during one of them, I got to do an experience, and I found out by doing this deep work that I found out that my purpose in life is to uplift others, right? It's like the reason I'm here on this planet, maybe I've been through a lot of pain, maybe I've been through a lot of stuff, but I've got to help a lot of people feel uplifted, right? And like I was saying earlier, when I got into recovery, man, I felt like I was never going to do anything good, and like I'm not perfect, and I don't have everything that I want in life, and I'm failed. But you know what? I get to help a lot of people on a regular basis, and that's only because I'm in recovery. Right?
Yeah.
If I wasn't in recovery, none of this would be possible.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Yeah, the concept behind the name of the show is kind of like I was saying, riches in recovery. The concept of having riches in recovery and us being both riches in recovery. The name of the show is also kind of has two meanings, as in from addiction to purpose, and also having addiction to purpose. Because I know that previously, well, still in life, quite frankly, I am addicted to pleasure. And pleasure is, right? Pleasure is short term. Pleasure gives me no long term
Nothing wrong with that.
effect, and if I go around and I'm constantly seeking pleasure in the form of sex, food, whatever I can intake for that little dopamine hit, then I get no true long-term effect. But what I do get long-term effect from is when I find purpose. Purpose in serving others, purpose in, having a good marriage, purpose in, leading a good life in recovery, things like that. So that's why, switching my addiction from pleasure to purpose.
To doing the next right thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of, all kinds of things that I like to meditate on, if you will.
Yeah.
Great buzz.
The Buddha says there's actually thousands of ways to meditate, so.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or five.
Yeah.
I love
Anything
mine.
that you're doing, realistically, yes. Anything that you're doing with full intention can be considered meditative, right? Like if you're truly focused on one thing, then you're sort of in meditation on that you're doing.
Yeah, it's one of the things I tell my students all the time is like if you work out, as long as you're not like listening to heavy metal while you do it, like you're completely in the moment, that's meditation.
Right.
If you're painting or you're playing guitar or there's really people who bicycle or run, it always sucks to get started, but once you hit that zone, you drop in.
Oh yeah.
One of the things I really push to is that like, not only should you meditate, we used to talk about the physical health all the time. I exercise, I eat right, I meditate, I try to take care of all those things, the whole, the hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Yeah.
Like, if I physically, emotionally, spiritually, if I take care of myself, things will shift. Even if I'm struggling in the moment, it'll get better. Right. And I do struggle in the moment. It still happens. It's just not as long. Yeah.
So many of us multitask, and I think, and I need to practice this myself. This is not practicing what I preaching, but so many of us multitask, and it would be better in many instances to give our brains a break. As opposed to listening to that podcast while we're exercising or driving our car. Just drive your car. Just exercise.
Driving your car is a great meditation, actually.
Right?
As long as you don't hit anything.
Yeah, but that's...
Eyes open.
Yeah, but if you just single task and just focus on what you're doing and be there doing it, then that can be very relaxing to the brain,
My sister says she prays and meditates while she drives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very much...
for her.
But you got to turn off the radio and... not answer your text messages and turn off the ringer on your phone and just be there. Not yell at the guy that cuts you off. Just let it be.
No, she puts the Christian radio station on and the loving music.
Or whatever spiritual radio station you like.
There you go.
Yeah, right. But that's what she does. And just, enjoys herself. And nothing wrong with that. That's how she starts her day and makes her feel strong and healthy and gets her day going. That's how she does it. More power to her.
Yeah. So we have a couple of last questions that we ask everybody that's on the show. The first one is, in the spirit of progress, not perfection, what is something that you're working on right now?
One of the things that I'm working on right now is I'm looking deeper at the way that my inner dynamics with relationships work for me and how I show up. And what I mean is like in a lot of 12-step programs they talk about, and this is just one of the things I'm doing. I'm in the process of building a website for my NLP business. I got a lot of things going on. I'm working on picking up a few more classes that I teach. But like internally, it's like really looking at that inner childhood stuff and practicing being even more kind and loving to myself than I've ever been. Because a lot of us, when we do 12-step stuff, we look at all our part, which is important. But sometimes you need to look at the stuff that got you to where you're there so that you can love yourself fully. So it's like really, I guess the short answer to that is more self-love. More self-love, more self-acceptance, more self-passion. And just seeing the beauty that's within me and focusing on that in the most loving way. That's been my focus lately for a while, is just being easy with myself.
I like that.
Yeah, it's great.
And then the other one is, what's the greatest gift that you've been given recently by recovery?
Recently, a lot of gifts. I think the knowing that the feeling and the understanding, the internalization that it's a process, that I don't have to be somewhere specific, because even in certain times in my recovery, even though I know better, I'm thinking, well, you should be there. Look at that person. They've got such and such, and I should be there. But just being like, this is where I am. This is okay. And look at and focusing on the difference that I've made and the gifts that I've made. I mean, because I always think one of the biggest gifts I've ever got is if I was to die tomorrow. I plan to live to be like 100, but if I died tomorrow, I would know for a fact that I raised 3 children that all love me and that are all adults and that call me and respect me and ask my opinion about things. And these kids are, 26, 28, and 31, right? Not really kids anymore.
Yeah.
But like, that's probably one of the biggest gifts in my life. But now it's just like, okay, I did that, and now I get to like just, I guess the gift is just the idea that I know that self-love. I mean, it's like a theme, right? Like not only am I focusing on self-love, but I really do have self-love.
Sure.
Like, so I guess that's what I'd say is like that I have been more patient, more kind, more loving, more nurturing to myself than I've ever been before, and also looking at some of the scary stuff deeper and deeper, and still loving myself through the process.
Sure.
So, I mean, I could probably go on another 30 minutes just about that, but I'm not going to.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. I know that you said that you've got a lot of things in development. Is there anything that you'd like to share, like your information with the audience?
Oh, sure. Well, my number is 707-591-3397. I do many things. One of them is I'm a wedding DJ, and I have the entertainment business, and I teach in lots of rehabs and places like that. So if you need a teacher for meditation or karaoke, or you're getting married, give me a call. I also have a website for that, caseentertainment.net, and I am working on a NLP coaching and hypnotherapy website right now. It's not up yet, but I'll send you the links later.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
That's one of my projects.
Yeah, very good. And I will put his contact information in our show description as well, so that you'll get that, just in case you didn't jot it down or you're driving or what have you. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments or need anything else from us, please do feel free to reach out. All of our contact information is also in the show description. I'd really like to thank James. This was a really fun conversation, and I feel like I learned a lot.
I had a lot of fun too. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, James. That was fantastic.
Yeah. And I'd like to thank our audience for being part of my sobriety today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us some of your time. We really hope you got something out of today's episode. We would be honored if you would like and share the episode, or leave a review or comment with your takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe to tune into future episodes. Have a great day.